Hi! Have you ever been wondering how YouTubers like S.T.A.L.K.E.R managed to get those fancy shots from the newest UE5 games like this one? Okay, that was a joke obviously, but how about this one? Or this? Or that one? Well, if you have managed to pay very close attention to most of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 footage out there, you might have noticed one thing they all have in common. Got it? Although we are actually in flying mode, the camera just keeps on shaking. The shaking itself is actually a feature of the animation of the character movement. When walking around, the camera starts to whip from left to right and back again. This should increase immersion, and it is very effective in doing so. Now, there are tools out there, namely UETools and the Universal Unreal Engine Unlocker by Franz Boomer. And both of those might or might not be able to actually provide a real free cam mode for the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 game. But since I am a poor little wiener, and I simply do not want to and also cannot afford those few little bucks for the Unreal Engine Unlocker by Franz Boomer, and at the same time I have not the slightest idea what a Dumper 7 SDK is, or how to load dynamic link libraries into a target process using tools such as System Informer, formerly Process Hacker. I instead decided to download about 700 gigabytes of data in form of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Zone Kit. Then I was browsing those files in the content browser of the Unreal Engine editor for about 2 days straight, only to build my very first mod, which is the Free Cam Workaround. Yeah, I know. That was good work. Thanks. Alright, so now that we are done with the introduction, how about I finally start with the actual content of this video, which is how I have created the mod. In the description of this video I have added a few links to various guides that I used to create my very first mod, thanks to those. In general, to create mods you will need the Unreal Engine and the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Zone Kit. Second is not directly required, but it makes things just a lot more straightforward and easy. The Zone Kit itself consists of about 700 gigabytes of data, so it takes quite some time to download it. And it takes me about another 20 minutes only to open and load the Zone Kit into the Unreal editor. In the meantime, I will quickly explain how I think a good free camera mod should actually work and what I was doing in the end due to skill and probably also technical limitations from the Zone Kit. So the idea is very simple and straightforward. The player object that we see in the game that allows us to interact with the game usually has a camera attached through which we see the world. So for a proper free cam mod, it would need a function to detach that camera from the player body and ideally freeze the player body in the meantime, so that the player cannot get hurt or dies or from hunger or thirst or bullet impact while we are roaming around through the world with the camera only. What I was able to find in the game files were some leftovers from a cheat mode or some debug tools, but none of them were actually functional inside of the game. And since I couldn't find a simple way to detach the camera from the player character, which would have probably included to change part of the base game loop and add additional input functionality, I instead was only working with the blueprint for the player character itself. Since the player character has something like a fly mode in which you don't lose height, and no clip can be achieved through the console commands, all I actually really had to do is somehow make sure that those camera shake effects be removed and at the same time make the player character invisible. I achieved this as follows. Here you can see the blueprint editor window for the blueprint S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 character, which is the player character in the game. It consists of many components like a mesh for the skeleton, a capsule component and an interaction collision component, a shadow mesh and the actual character mesh, apart from some others like audio components. First thing I figured out, to remove the camera shake, all I had to do is turn off the animations, and I did so by adjusting the global animation rate scale to 0. This makes the animation speed in which it plays multiplied by 0, which means it doesn't play at all. No character movement means no camera shake. Next thing, pretty obvious, turn off the visibility of the character. So I went through all of the components and unticked all of the visible boxes. Also make sure to turn on any shadows casted. Otherwise you might see flying shadows in the world where there should be none. Next thing I changed was the movement modes of the character. To make sure I will never ever fall through the ground or something, I have set the default movement mode to fly. Fly does not mean no clip. It means in the first place that the character doesn't lose any height, so he cannot fall through the ground. This is a very important step. The pawn. Here use controller rotation pitch. I had to turn this on, otherwise the character view, like the camera view, would only have been able to rotate it around the Z-axis, which means you can only look from left to right, but not change camera view like upwards and downwards. About the rotation rate, I'm not fully sure if it is needed. It might be needed, I have not tried it out yet without. In my mod it is also turned on to 360 degrees. Another thing that I changed was removing the audio components from the body. I did so because they couldn't be deleted, so instead I was simply moving them away 500 meters from the body, so you cannot hear any stepping sounds or breathing sounds anymore where there should be none. It doesn't mean that they are removed, it only means that they play 500 meters away. Important, keep the root component together with the camera, otherwise you will have only very weird sound. The last thing I had to do, detach the camera from its mesh and only attach it to the capsule component itself. Otherwise you will have tricky issues like this. I also tried to turn off the collision. I did so by change collision preset to spectator and untick generate overlap events. I also tried to ignore basically all kinds of collision. The only thing I managed was to fall to the ground. I have not managed to make the character not receive any damage anymore or being hit by radiation and stuff. So those things are most likely controlled somewhere else or in a way that I was not able to understand it yet. In the end, I somehow managed to get a free cam mode in a way that was enough for me. Don't forget to compile the blueprint and check out the blueprint and the mod and generate the mod and stuff. And yeah, that's basically how you create the most shittiest free cam mod in the history of S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 modding. Probably. Yeah, final words from my side. It was a very fun experience. It took me 2 days, one and only, to get a little bit of an overview over the folder structure of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 zone kit. If you have any better ideas on how to achieve a real free cam mode for the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 game, then please feel free to share them. I'm happy to learn from your ideas. And yeah, let's enjoy some of the shots that I was able to make with this little workaround. Thanks for watching.
Востаннє повторюю! Шматки мутантів сичу! Усі бійки і розборки лишаємо за бортом. Гарячі голови відправляю охолонути на двір, навіть якщо на носі викид.